The 2015 Raptor Restricted Area incident stands as one of the most sobering and widely discussed tragedies in the modern history of amusement parks. Occurring at Cedar Point in Sandusky, Ohio, a park globally renowned for its massive collection of roller coasters and strict safety protocols, the event shocked the public. However, unlike accidents caused by mechanical failure or structural collapse, this incident was the direct result of a guest entering a highly restricted, clearly marked danger zone. It serves as a stark, tragic case study in why amusement park perimeter fences and warning signs exist. To understand the mechanics of the incident, one must understand the ride itself. Opened in 1994, Raptor is a steel-inverted roller coaster designed by the acclaimed Swiss manufacturing firm Bolliger & Mabillard, B&M. Unlike traditional roller coasters where riders sit inside a car on top of the tracks, an inverted coaster suspends the ski lift-style trains beneath the track. The rider's legs dangle freely in the open air. Because the train hangs below the track, the clearance level between the rider's feet and the ground or anything underneath the track is exceptionally low in certain zones, particularly during low-slung turns, loops, and the final brake runs. The ride moves at speeds of up to 57 miles per hour, features 6 inversions, and carries immense kinetic energy. Because of these physical dynamics, B&M and Cedar Point designed the ground beneath the track as a strictly prohibited zone, surrounded by high fencing to ensure no human could accidentally wander into the path of the speeding multi-ton steel trains. The tragedy occurred on a late Thursday afternoon, around 5 p.m., when the park was filled with summer crowds. James A. Young II, a 45-year-old special education teacher from Canton, Ohio, was visiting the park with friends. Earlier in the day, Young had ridden the Raptor. During the intense high-speed maneuvers of the coaster, an item of his personal property, later identified as his cell phone and keys, slipped from his pocket and fell to the ground beneath the structure. Amusement parks have standard operating procedures for lost items. Guests are instructed to report the loss to ride operators, who log the item and retrieve it after the park closes and the rides are safely shut down for the night. Entering a live ride envelope while trains are cycling is strictly forbidden for guests and employees alike. However, rather than waiting for the park to close or contacting ride staff to initiate the standard recovery process, Young decided to retrieve the items himself. He located the perimeter of the Raptor, which was guarded by a specific high chain-link security fence topped with curved wiring. The fence featured multiple prominent bright signs reading "Danger Restricted Area" and "Do Not Enter." Ignoring the signage, Young scaled the high-security fence and dropped down into the restricted ride enclosure. Once inside the perimeter, Young began searching through the grass and gravel underneath the towering steel structure. Due to the layout of the Raptor, certain low turns are partially obscured by the ride's own support columns and neighboring landscaping. Furthermore, the sheer volume of ambient noise in an amusement park, the screams of riders, the roar of nearby coasters, and the mid-afternoon crowd chatter can make it incredibly difficult to track the exact position of a coasting train by sound alone. As Young was looking for his phone near the track, a Raptor train carrying a full load of passengers rounded a sharp, low-to-the-ground curve at its maximum operational speed of roughly 57 miles per hour. Because of the inverted design of the coaster, the dangling legs of the passengers and the heavy fiberglass seats underneath the chassis were moving like a high-speed pendulum. Young, who reportedly had his back turned or was looking down, never saw the train coming. The train struck him in the back of the head with immense force. The impact was instantaneous and fatal. Emergency medical personnel and park security rushed to the scene immediately, but Young was pronounced dead at the site. Remarkably, none of the passengers on the coaster train were physically injured, though several reported feeling a violent thud and many were deeply traumatized after witnessing the impact or seeing the aftermath upon returning to the station. Following the incident, Cedar Point immediately shut down the Raptor to allow local police, park officials, and state ride inspectors to conduct a thorough investigation. The ride remained closed for the remainder of that Thursday and through Friday, while authorities reviewed surveillance footage and interviewed witnesses. The investigation quickly concluded that the ride had functioned perfectly. There were no mechanical anomalies, track failures, or operator errors. The tragedy was ruled an accident caused entirely by trespassing into a high-voltage, high-speed restricted zone. The Raptor reopened to the public that Saturday. The incident sparked a massive national conversation regarding guest behavior, personal responsibility, and amusement park safety layout. In the years following the tragedy, Cedar Point and other amusement parks across the globe re-examined their perimeter fencing. While the existing fences met all state safety codes, many parks opted to reinforce their restricted areas with even higher barriers, more aggressive anti-climb netting, and clearer, more explicit warning signs to ensure that a momentary lapse in judgment over a replaceable object like a cell phone would never result in a loss of life again. The 2021 Top Thrill Dragster queue line injury stands as one of the most frightening anomalies in modern amusement park history. Unlike accidents caused by guest trespassing or total structural failure, this nightmare struck a visitor who was doing everything right. Standing safely in a designated waiting area, completely compliant with park rules, she was blindsided by a mechanical failure from above. The sheer randomness of the event sent shockwaves through the global amusement community and forever altered the landscape of Cedar Point. To comprehend the forces involved in the accident, one must understand the extreme mechanics of Top Thrill Dragster. Opened in 2003 as the world's first Strata coaster, a roller coaster exceeding 400 feet in height, the ride was an engineering marvel built by Intamin. It used a hydraulic launch system to rocket passengers from 0 to 120 miles per hour in just under 4 seconds. The train was designed to shoot straight up a 90-degree vertical incline, crest a 420-foot apex, and plunge straight back down into a 270-degree spiral before hitting the final magnetic brake run. Because the ride operated at such extreme thresholds of velocity, acceleration, and vibration, every single component of the trains was subjected to immense stress during each cycle. The atmosphere at the park was typical for a sunny Sunday afternoon in mid-August. Rachel Hawes, a 24-year-old graduate student from Swartz Creek, Michigan, was visiting Cedar Point with her family. At roughly 4 p.m., they entered the queue line for Top Thrill Dragster. The waiting area was intentionally designed to wrap around the launch and brake tracks, giving waiting guests an immersive, up-close view of the screaming trains. As Hawes stood in line, a train carrying passengers completed its 120 miles per hour circuit and slammed into the final brake run. This sudden decelerating force creates a massive shockwave of vibration throughout the fiberglass chassis of the cars. At that exact microsecond, a heavy L-shaped proximity sensor bracket attached to the left rear side of the train's final car gave way. The metal bracket, roughly the size of a human fist, was designed to pass over track sensors to communicate the train's location to the ride's computer system. The violent forces of deceleration snapped the bracket entirely off its mounting. Launched by the train's residual kinetic energy, the metal piece soared over the safety fences and hurtled directly into the crowded queue line. It struck Hawes in the back of the head. The impact caused immediate, catastrophic trauma. Hawes collapsed instantly, unconscious and bleeding heavily. Screaming bystanders and park staff scrambled to assist, and paramedics rushed her to a local hospital before she was airlifted to a specialized trauma center in Toledo, Ohio. Cedar Point immediately closed Top Thrill Dragster indefinitely as the Ohio Department of Agriculture, ODA, which regulates amusement park safety, launched a massive investigation. Investigators meticulously examined the train, the track, and maintenance logs, compiling a 620-page report. The report revealed that half of the bolts meant to secure the bracket were missing or broken, suggesting that intense mechanical fatigue had gone unnoticed. However, the ODA ultimately concluded that there was insufficient evidence to prove Cedar Point had knowingly violated state inspection laws, ruling the component failure an isolated mechanical anomaly. Despite the state clearing the park of criminal wrongdoing, Hawes' family filed a massive civil lawsuit. The impact had left her with severe skull fractures, permanent traumatic brain injury, and total disability. Her medical bills rapidly surpassed $2 million, with projected lifelong care costs exceeding $10 million. In April 2024, Cedar Point's parent company reached a confidential, multi-million-dollar financial settlement with the Hawes family to cover her ongoing around-the-clock care. The cultural fallout from the accident was instantaneous. The reality that a waiting guest could be grievously injured by flying debris shattered the psychological safety net of the theme park experience. Recognizing that public trust in the iconic ride had evaporated, Cedar Point announced in 2022 that Top Thrill Dragster would be retired forever. The physical structure was completely reimagined. The park stripped away the problematic hydraulic launch system and contracted a new manufacturer, Zamperla, to completely rebuild the attraction. The ride was transformed into Top Thrill 2, utilizing a state-of-the-art linear synchronous motor, LSM, magnetic launch system, and entirely redesigned lightweight aluminum trains. Additionally, the park aggressively overhauled the surrounding plaza, keeping queue lines entirely isolated from high-speed zones to ensure a freak mechanical failure could never endanger a waiting crowd again. The 2007 Maverick testing incident remains a legendary chapter in the history of roller coaster engineering. Unlike tragedies that result in human injury, this event is remembered as a scary moment of mechanical miscalculation, a literal close call where physics pushed steel and testing equipment to their breaking points. It serves as a fascinating glimpse into the high-stakes world of modern ride development, illustrating the razor-thin margin between an unforgettable thrill and catastrophic structural failure. In the mid-2000s, Cedar Point was locked in an arms race to maintain its reputation as the roller coaster capital of the world. Having already conquered extreme height and speed with Millennium Force and Top Thrill Dragster, the park decided to pivot its strategy for its 17th coaster. Instead of building taller, they wanted a ride that focused on relentless intensity, sudden changes of direction, and terrain-hugging maneuvers. They commissioned Intamin, the daring Swiss design firm, to create Maverick. Marketed as a custom LSM coaster, Maverick was designed to feature a steep 95-degree first drop, multiple low-to-the-ground bank turns, and a powerful linear synchronous motor, LSM launch, that would rocket trains through a dark tunnel at 70 miles per hour mid-course. However, the most anticipated element of the ride was its grand finale, a heartline roll. A heartline roll is a unique twist where the train rotates 360 degrees around a central axis, keeping the rider's upper body, specifically the heart, at the center of the rotation. It was positioned immediately after the 70 miles per hour tunnel launch, designed to flip riders upside down at near maximum velocity just feet above the lagoon. Maverick was scheduled to open to the public on May 12, 2007. By early spring, construction was complete, and the gleaming tan and red steel tracks stretched across the park's frontier town. Engineers prepared for the mandatory pull-through tests and subsequent unmanned test runs using water-weighted dummies. These dummies, designed to simulate human weight and center of gravity, are packed with sensors to measure the physical forces exerted during a ride cycle. When the maintenance team first launched the empty trains through the tunnel and into the heartline roll at full speed, the results were alarming. The math on paper did not match the violent reality of the kinetic energy generated in the field. Because the train entered the tight heartline roll at a blistering 70 miles per hour, the rotational velocity was far too fast. The transition into the roll happened so abruptly that the lateral and rotational g-forces spiked to dangerous, unsustainable levels. During consecutive test runs, the violence of the maneuver began to literally tear the heavy test dummies apart, snapping their plastic limbs and shearing their restraints. Even more terrifying to the engineers was what the ride was doing to itself. The extreme stress and twisting forces of the train traversing the roll began to crack the steel welds on the track and fatigue the supporting columns. Had humans been on board, the whiplash effect would have easily caused severe neck fractures, extreme concussions, or fatal internal injuries due to the instantaneous, high-velocity directional changes. With opening day just weeks away, Cedar Point executives and Intamin engineers faced a logistical nightmare. It was physically impossible to open the ride in its current state without risking a catastrophic accident. On May 8, 2007, just 4 days before the scheduled grand opening, Cedar Point made the shocking announcement that Maverick's debut would be delayed. The solution was unprecedented. Engineers determined that the Heartline roll couldn't be fixed or modified. It had to be completely obliterated from the layout. Intamin manufactured a completely new, straight section of track to replace the twisted element. During the month of May, crews descended upon the ride with heavy cranes and cutting torches. They unbolted and cut out the offending Heartline roll, which had cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to design and fabricate, and lowered it to the ground, where it was later scrapped. In its place, they bolted down a simple heavily banked S-curve. This modification allowed the train to shed its extreme speed safely without subjected riders to lethal rotational forces. Maverick finally opened to the public on June 9, 2007, nearly a month behind schedule. It was an instant hit, widely praised for its breakneck pacing and relentless airtime, and it remains one of the highest-rated roller coasters in the world today. For coaster enthusiasts, the lost Heartline roll of Maverick became stuff of legend. It stands as a chilling reminder of how close the industry came to a major design disaster, and it fundamentally changed how manufacturers calculated the human body's tolerance to high-speed rotational forces. Today, if you look closely at the track just after Maverick exits its launch tunnel, you can still see where the support structures were modified to accommodate the straight track that replaced a mechanical nightmare.